Lovely. You sound great, folks. Good job. Let's turn back. Page 120. Joseph, I owe you a candle lighting. So come on over. If you would like the candles for us.
Yes, sir.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Thank you, Yosef. Thank you. Let's turn to page 123. We'll ask you to rise if you are able. We'll continue with our Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, b'ahava uvratzon, inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila, למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה uvratzon inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. You may be seated. Let's turn all the way forward, 138. 139, the prayer of our mystics from Tzfat. We'll continue with the first 5 stanzas. After the 5th one, we jump to the very last one. And at that point, our custom here is to rise if we're able, turn and face the open doors in the back of our sanctuary, and symbolically we welcome the Sabbath bride into our midst.
חתותי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לחתותי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בהדיבורך רשמי אנו, אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולנצח. לחתותי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לחתותי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונרחקי עם מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לחתותי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לחתותי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה קום יצאי מתוך ההפכה רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת You're doing great. Number 4. Hitna'ani me'afakumi livshi bigdei tifarticha al yad ben Yishai beitalach mi korva nafshi ge'ala lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela Hitoreri kiva orech kumi ori shir daberi kevod Adonai alayich nigla lecha dodi לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום ותרד בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך Am segula boi chala lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. May be seated. Shalom Aleichem 142. I think this prayer is a melody that probably lots of us, not all of us, but lots of us learn when we're really young. This idea of welcoming others, hoping that they come in peace, that you go in peace, but really about this Malachei Hasharet, these ministering angels, angels that come and take care of us and visit when we need and then depart. It's supposed to make Shabbat feel wonderful. But I've been thinking more and more and more how it's not separate angels, but it's you, that we get to be those angels in people's lives. And I know it's Thanksgiving weekend and people have this gratitude and also has a complicated history for us. So what do we do with all of that? I think we keep ministering to others. And I think that's how we can learn most about ourselves. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Ni L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Malachim Kadosh Baruch Hu Zeitchem Leshalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malachei Hamlachim Kadosh Baruch Hu. Let's turn forward. 144. Yitkandal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Bagala Uvizman Kariv V'yimeru Yehi Shmei Rabba Mivarach Le'alam Olal Me'amaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yit'aleh V'yitalal Shemid Kudesha Berechu Leila Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Da'amiran B'yama V'yimeru Amen. 146. Ya la 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 ya la ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya Ya la la, Baruch Hu et Adonai Amevorach Baruch Adonai Amevorach Amevorach Le'olam va'ed Amevorach Amevorach Le'olam va'ed. If you want to hold your place, you can look all the way in the back on page 677. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. One more time, open up our eyes, open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. And we will know that you are one. Page 152. Shema Yisrael, Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed Baruch Shem Kevod Leolam Vaed Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. May be seated. Let's turn the page. Ve'avta et Adonai Elohecha bechol vavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha vehayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Let's read on 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai Michamocha netar b'kodesh Norati lo osef eleh Norati lo osef eleh Malechotecha ra'u vanecha Gokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam Ze'elianu ve'amru Ze'elianu
page 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Save us for the sake of. Shield us from hatred. Shield us from hatred, sorrow and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. 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 162. We don't do this so often anymore. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et Hashabbat lasot et Hashabbat ledorotam berit olam. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et Hashabbat lasot et Hashabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein bnei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam. Veshamru bnei Yisrael et Hashabbat lasot et Hashabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Veshamru bnei Yisrael et Hashabbat lasot et Hashabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. Veshamru bnei Yisrael et Hashabbat turn the page, we invite you to rise. If you are able, we can move into the tefillah together. Page 164. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi argi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magin, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magin Avraham Vezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye Hakol Atarav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem, Mechaker Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Berachamim Rabim, Somech noflim verofe cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, micha mocha baal gevurot, umido melach, melech mimit umechaye, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעלוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל HaKadosh. We can be seated. Let's look on page 177. Hoda'ah, our prayer of gratitude. Let's read together. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha v'lecha na'eh lehodot. Let's turn the page. Shalom Rav an Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav an Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael
tasim leolam, tasim leolam, tasim leolam. Let's take some time for our own prayer, our own quiet. You can reflect, you can pray, you can read. If you want something to reflect upon, you can look in the prayer book, 179 through 181. There's a number of different things to focus our attention, or just take some of your own time. Shalom bimroma, Yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru Shalom bimromav, Yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la la Oseh shalom bimroma Yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la la
We turn again, 371 in the middle of the page. It's always after that prayer for peace that we look to our prayer for healing and wholeness. Our Misha Berach is in the middle of 371, and if you picked up one of these handouts, like we always do, in the middle of the page, in the middle of that spread, we'll have a column of folks who are looking for prayer in their life, folks who are asking for some support and some love and some strength from us. So whether we know them or not, these are going to be many that we take into our prayers and into our hearts. If you'd like to share the name of someone, you can just call them out. Even if they're all filling up the room at the same time, just lift up those names and we'll join you in this prayer for healing. $371 in the middle of the page. Of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say glad that's over for a while. I've always liked Thanksgiving. For a lot of us, there's a lot of us who have an appreciation about Thanksgiving. Not everybody. Sometimes it's hard around family tables. I know that to be true, and I don't mean to discount that. But there is something that has been, I think, special in my lifetime, especially in a family that couldn't always gather for Thanksgiving purposefully. That there was something significant about coming together with friends and family, or one or the other, and trying to figure out what is it that we're really grateful for. Now, in Jewish tradition, there's prayers every day for gratitude. I know, it's not just Shabbat, I'm just saying. That there are prayers every single day that folks can say to help us experience a sense of gratitude. And I think gratitude it's so essential to us as human beings. I think without a sense of gratitude, it's really easy to fall into places of self-centeredness and narcissism if I don't really think about how I'm lucky, what I'm thankful for, and then how do I bring that out into the world. I think there's a difference between being grateful and being thankful. Thankful is just kind of inward, and that's a nice thing. and that's great, but it's all about me. And gratitude is taking that thankfulness and putting it out into the world somehow. And so I love this idea of Thanksgiving. Some are wondering if those pilgrims had a sense of the Torah because they were pilgrims and they knew their Bible, that maybe they were thinking of Sukkot. I don't know. I think it's a stretch. Sukkot being that agricultural holiday when we have all of these wonderful foods to eat and there's a real sense of joy and festivity. I think that's sometimes redefining our truths. But I do appreciate Sukkot. And you've heard me say, for those that come around here, if you're going to show up on one day of the year, skip Yom Kippur and come on Sukkot. I think it's great. I think it's fun. It's joyous. We have decorations. There's good food. We're outside under the stars. If it's windy, you're from Colorado, so you're used to it. I think Sukkot's great. Do you know that the term Jew is from Yehudi in Hebrew, and Yehudi is from the tribe of Yehudah, again, in Hebrew, and Yehudah, Judah, the root letters of his name is gratitude. Hoda'ah is gratitude. When we say Moda'ani or Moda'ani in part of those morning prayers, or the Hoda'ah, the Thanksgiving prayer, it's all coming from that same root, the same as Yehudi. And I look at Jewish history and I think there's a lot to be grateful for. One, somehow we're still here. As crazy as that seems, I think it's amazing. I think it's nothing less than amazing to hear about the trials and tribulations of the Jewish people from the four corners of the earth. Not just in Europe, but all throughout the world. All of the exiles, all of the hardships, all of the challenges. And we're still around. Not so large and strong, but still around. And I think that's amazing, and I am grateful for that. And I'm grateful for so much more than just surviving. I think it's so much more important than just to survive, don't you? Like, let's not underestimate the power of continuing the chain. Like, I'm on board with that. I've made that my life's work. I'm with you. But that can't be what all that this is about, is surviving. That's not inspirational or moving enough for me. That doesn't tell me how I'm supposed to live in this really complicated world. I think it has to be more than that. And we have all of these amazing ideas and values and teachings all throughout Jewish history. And I'm grateful for that. And now let's pivot for a second and go back to Thanksgiving, because growing up in New York in the 1970s, what I remember learning about Thanksgiving is that the Pilgrims and the Indians were able to come together and have a special meal and build a peaceful coexistence together. And out of construction paper, everybody would have Indian headdresses. But then later on in life, I realized that's not exactly what happened on Thanksgiving. And later on in life, I also recognize that culture shouldn't be costume for others. That's important. And there are so many, many different Native American peoples and nations on this continent. It's not the Indian, like we might have imagined from Lone Ranger in the 1950s. It's so much more complicated than that. But I remember that it's supposed to be a friendly gathering and people were sharing their resources. But if you do a little bit more digging, it's not so hard these days, we learn a different story. The National Museum of the American Indian says that the assembly of these people had much more to do with political alliances and diplomacy and an effort at rarely achieved temporary peaceful coexistence. Although Native American people have always given thanks for the world around them, like most peoples and most folks with different religious perspectives, The Thanksgiving celebrated today is more a combination of Puritan religious practices and the European festival called Harvest Home, which then grew to encompass native foods like corn or turkey. But it wasn't so long before those colonists no longer honored their alliance with the Wampanoag people, and that nation suffered greatly under colonist rule into the 21st century. We can see how this myth of Thanksgiving turned to a day of mourning for some indigenous peoples of this continent. It has turned to a time of protest among some people. And few, really few, know of the atrocities inflicted upon native populations that resulted in diminishing the population by 90%, according to the National Museum of the American Indian, from a high about 10 million in the 15th century to a low of 250,000 at the beginning of the 20th century. And now those numbers are estimated to be about 2.7 million people who identify as Native American or indigenous in the United States, just the United States. So, looking at what I've just shared and looking at the beginning of the story about an American's Jews' Thanksgiving, not just what I learned in the 70s, but that sense of gratitude, you know, it shouldn't take me so late in life to realize we have so much in common. There's a shared parallel story of indigenous peoples facing cultures of antagonism, hate, and aggression, launched about towards both communities, attempts at extermination of our cultures or of our languages, and real challenges of being in America with issues around assimilation or acculturation. Both are true. I've found a quote recently that's pretty provocative, at least for me. It was from 1853, and it was from a Russian Jewish man who is a writer in something called the Haskalah. The Haskalah is sort of like a Jewish enlightenment. The Haskalah has other writers using Jewish ideas to create values and ethics, but weren't necessarily so legally focused. In the 1850s in Russia and throughout Europe, there was a lot of people that wanted to keep Jews at the sidelines and not give them citizenship and access into the freedoms that other people were beginning to enjoy. And so this one person, Isaac Bear Levinson, he wrote, "There is no greater sin than to cause one's nation to disappear from the world." And I think he was talking about the Jewish people. But it doesn't have to be just about us, does it? I'll say it again. There is no greater sin than to cause one's nation to disappear from the world. And I find that just so powerful and provocative. And I think we need to find more ways to find common ground. While Jews might not be indigenous to this land, it has been a good home for us. And we also share a land with another indigenous people where we are indigenous with the land. And we both of those people know the costs of conflict and animosity and distrust and hatred in the land of Israel. So how do we move forward? So as a rabbi, not as a musician, I'm going to go back to our text. Let's look in the book of Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 19, the Hebrew is Ve'ahavta l're'echa kamocha. Ve'ahavta, a lot of us know as you shall love, right? Kamocha is like you, like yourself. It's that middle word that we have so much trouble with. It's re'acha, right? So it's your something. It's your re'ah. So what is this person? Well, it could be kin. It could be friend. Some translations are going to say it's a neighbor, but we have a difference of opinion of whether it is folks that are connected to those ancient Israelite tribes or beyond. For some, it's going to say for anyone, it's your neighbor, in general, bichlal. And for others, it's going to say your Jewish neighbors. We have other words for those other neighbors. Okay. We can make arguments from a textual position if you want to look at all of the different ways this one term is used throughout the Hebrew Bible, and the truth is it's both. So we don't know what the intent of our writers were. Some of our commentators are going to say it's all human beings, and others are going to say it's just among your people. In other words, we have to look at this as a responsibility for somebody, and we can look inward or we can look outward. And I think both are true. But here's the thing. Dr. Tamara Ashkenazi, who once upon a time studied at the University of Denver, she's the editor of the Women's Torah Commentary. And she teaches that love in the Torah, love in the Bible, is not this warm, fuzzy, I love you kind of sentiment. That's not what love is about in the Torah. Love in the Bible is about commitment and loyalty and action rather than feelings. To love others is to take responsibility for their well-being. So whomever the Re'ah is doesn't really matter anymore. Because the v'ahavta and you're going to love them means that you're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with somebody else who isn't necessarily like you or from your immediate family. You're going to have to love them and take responsibility for them. So we can love our neighbor and we can love the stranger, and we can learn that either way is about standing with them. And that's kind of good enough for me. Standing with them. So here's a few things that I think lots of us need to learn more about, including me, because I still go back to the 70s with the construction paper headdress and can't do that anymore. Let's be more real. We want people to understand who Jews really are. Well, then we have to do the same. So here's a couple of things. The New York Times reported that of the 5,712 indigenous women reported missing in the U.S. in 2016, only 116 were logged by the Federal Missing Persons Database. And that's shocking to me. A lack of awareness is what makes the missing and murdered indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit movement a necessity. Indigenous women and girls are at a disproportionate risk of violent and nonviolent victimization. In America, 4 out of 5 American Indian and Alaska Native women experience violence in their lifetimes, according to the National Criminal Justice Reference Service, more than any other racial group. Right Relationship Boulder brings together indigenous and non-native people working together to support indigenous people's connections to land, raise indigenous voices, and practice right relationships with native people in the Boulder Valley based on collaboration and justice. Even supporting the Native American Rights Fund based here in Boulder. Or we can go to the new exhibit at the History Colorado Center. It's just launched. A new exhibit of the Sand Creek Massacre developed in partnership with museum curators and tribal representatives of the Cheyenne and Arapaho peoples, sharing how the massacre left unresolved trauma behind long after the event, something else that we in the Jewish community can have a sense of experiencing and identifying with. And if we're not familiar, it was November 29th, this weekend, 1864, the U.S. Army attacked a camp of mostly women, children, and elders on Big Sandy Creek in southeastern Colorado. And the soldiers murdered more than 230 peaceful people. So what do we do? I'm going to continue honoring my own family's customs of Thanksgiving, of bringing daughters in, everybody cooking together, everybody sharing a little bit of food and drink and expressing what we're really grateful for, because it hasn't always been easy, right? It hasn't. But I'm going to keep doing that because that's part of American civil religion, but at the same time, I'm not going to forget about the crimes of colonialism. I'm not going to ignore our country's past. And I am going to hold America responsible and move towards a better relationship with the American Indian nations. But our congregation can start here. We can only begin, just begin, by acknowledging that the land where we are on today is the territory of the Arapaho people, and we can honor Chief Left Hand, the leader of the last of the Arapaho band to spend their winters in the Boulder Valley. Many people were massacred at the U.S. Cavalry at Sandy Creek in 1864. The survivors were forced out of Colorado to reservations, Wyoming and Oklahoma, where most Arapaho live today. And in our daily lives, let's remember that the valley, Boulder Valley, is home to Arapaho nations, among other tribes that also camped and hunted and traded here for centuries. But as one of my newer teachers, Tink Tinker, says to me, it can't just be the land acknowledgement. It has to be the beginning. You begin with an acknowledgement, which is the truth of our teshuvah process in the first place. We begin with acknowledgement, and then we figure out what we need to learn, how do we own our part, and consider what can change in the future. That is a Jewish perspective on teshuvah. That's not easy. I think it's challenging. I think it's most challenging for Native Americans. But as a people who feel so strongly that others stand with us when we need them, well, that is propelling me forward to figure out how do we stand with others who need us too. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Our conclusion, 586, at the bottom of the page, Aleinu L'Shabeach. We invite you to rise if you are able. Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol, L'Atei Gedula Liotzer Breshit, Shelo Asanu Kokayei Haratzot, Velo Samanu K'mishpachot Ha'adama, Shelo Sam Chalkenu Kahem, V'goralenu Kechol Hamonam, V'anachnu Korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. Page 591. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו U'shemo echad. May be seated. Zichronam levracha. May their memories be for a blessing. If you are observing a yahrzeit, the anniversary of one's death, or if you are in a period of mourning, we invite you, if you choose, to rise for a moment, share the name of the one whom you are remembering, and then we'll continue with additional names from the community. Yeah, Lisa. We also remember in that first 30 days, the period of Shloshim, we remember Peter Elkanah, the son of Dave Elkanah and of Eve Bon, the brother of Henry and Charlie. We remember our congregant Alan Hurst. We remember Paul Richter, the brother of Susan Aaron and the uncle of Andy Bavarnik. And we remember Dolores Sanders, the mother of Lisa Malowski. Those yahrzeits for this week that has passed, we continue to remember Roberta Balter, Ida Barnett, Jeanette Beer, Jack Butt, Arthur Cohen, Dwight Victor Galloway, Sophie Garland, Milton Gersten, Walt Glenn, Paul Goldstein, LaDonna King, Jonathan Krass, Michael Margolis, Boris Melamed, Sidney Miller, Erwin Moore, Hansi Morbach, Rosario Osuna, Rose Panner, Abraham Paper, Doris Rabinowitz, John Robbins, Marianne Schiff, Arthur Silverman, Wallace Spector, Lottie Timor, Selma Walzer, Miriam Ween, William Young, and Florence Young. But I also want to share the names of a few others. One who died in Jerusalem as a result of that bombing the other day, Aryeh Shupek. And also from the Club Q, murder, Daniel Ashton, Raymond Green Vance, Kelly Loving, Ashley Paul, Derek Rump. Kaddish is on 598. We stand together, shoulder to shoulder, supporting our friends who are mourners this Shabbat, 598. Yet Gadal, V'yet Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yalma Divrach Hirutei, V'yamlich Malchutei, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, V'izman Kariv, V'meru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach, Le'alam, U'lamei Almaya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitrumam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei d'kudisha b'rechu, le'ela min kol b'erchata v'shirata, tush b'achata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma, v'meru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'meru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimeru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, all who hurt, here and everywhere. Let's all say amen. We can be seated. We have lots of things still going on. It's a quiet weekend, but we're glad that, of course, you folks are here and our friends, others are joining us online as always. We continue not just through Shabbat, but in that handout, there's a number of things that we're sharing. There's information about talking about some of the complicated things going on in Israel. We have more adult learning opportunities planned. We're organizing an event for folks in their 20s just to connect with other people and create a little bit of a network with no other agendas. So all of that information and more is here and online. And I'll invite you to turn to page 648. A little more gratitude, new beginnings. Sing along with me. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Let's do that one more time. Shiru l'Adonai Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Shabbat shalom to you. Wish your neighbors a Shabbat shalom. We're going to invite you in the social hall. We'll make a quick motzi. We'll have you introduce yourselves to one another, and then you can grab a nash.